Hi, this is Savannah,
And this is Brian from the Dorky Diva Show,
and you're listening to Star Wars.
the best place for below average Star Wars.
The Dorky Diva Show presents
Why is this seat so much more comfortable?
the long-awaited sequel to the adventures of the Zolan Dart audio drama.
Have you seen the captain's datapad?
Trying to work, Murph.
Piloting the Zolan Dart by himself,
You do understand the details of this particular job, correct?
I've been on plenty of jobs like this. With you!
Reldar Sias returns to a planet he thought he'd left behind for good.
Is there a reason you didn't mention I was tagging along?
Hopefully having you there will make others think twice about messing with me.
Making new friends
Oh, you must be the pilot of the Zolan Dart, yes?
I guess I am.
and reconnecting with old ones,
Reldar?
Vera?
What are you doing here?
until past grudges resurface.
I'd be minding my own business if I were you.
Well, if your business wasn't being handled right in front of my face, maybe I could mind my own business. We have to leave. Now.
Why the rush all of a sudden?
We're in trouble.
If it isn't little Reldar Sias.
Hey, Yorick. Long time no see.
Roz already knows you're here.
Oh,
Look who decided to come home.
Reldar must confront his origin,
I must admit, I never saw this as being a part of your past, Softshell.
or let it define his future.
I will get what is owed to me, no matter the cost.
because what Roz is trying to do is wrong.
Says you.
My blasters, we're going to need these. Take that, Sleemo!
Who do you think you are?
The Adventures of the Zolan Dart, Episode 2, coming soon.
Welcome to Star Wars, best place for below average Star Wars.
Hello there, and welcome to the Star Wars Show, the best place for below average Star Wars. I am the Geordie Jedi Pete.
And I'm Jason Hondo Ling.
And we are back with a brand new episode of Star Wars to deep dive some of the hottest talking points this week in the Star Wars galaxy and just have a general good time. Jason, it's lovely to hear your voice. Are you fully recovered from COVID now?
Yep, I'm back in the land of the Lidovin. I've had a rather cold week at work, so I'm enjoying being sat in the warm tonight.
Fantastic. Well, I'm very glad to hear it. Let's just dive straight in. I think something that has happened in the last week since we last got together was Sony Pictures have dedicated it's one of its new music buildings to John Williams. So yeah, the legendary film composer John Williams has had a music building dedicated to him by Sony Pictures Entertainment on the historic Culver City lot. Obviously, it's the former home of the MGM Studios, and directors J.J. Abrams and Steven Spielberg were speaking at the ceremony. So yeah, some pretty awesome stuff. I think John Williams, the longer he goes, almost the more legendary he gets. Obviously he's worked with Spielberg on a lot of projects. I think 29 projects he's worked with Steven Spielberg on, and obviously he's worked with J.J. Abrams on, two of his Star Wars movies. The Force Awakens and The Rise of Skywalker. So it was good to see those guys there to sort of, speak and sort of introduce it to him. What's your thoughts on his name now being forever documented on this building in the lot, and also just your thoughts generally around the voice and the DNA that John Williams gives to Star Wars and cinema, I suppose?
Yeah, obviously John Williams for me is a huge hero. You know, his soundtrack, the soundtracks that he's produced and been involved with, some of my most favourite films. And his music is what, or score is what brings a lot of that to life. You know, you look back at Jaws. If you didn't have that dum 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 dum, you know what were that is the thing that everyone remembers about that film, not the fact that the shark was a big lump of rubber that wobbled a lot. And you know, again, you know, the haunting tunes that he produced for like E.T., and just everything. Saving Private Ryan, you know, the music there, it just he just brings something to the films. And obviously, you know, they made a big thing about it looked like Indiana Jones was going to be one of the last things that he worked on. And as soon as the new Star Wars stuff was announced, then it was like, oh, maybe I haven't completely finished, which I think gave us all a little bit of hope that he's going to carry on being involved. Obviously, you know, no one lives forever, and what he's producing, even at the age that he is absolutely amazing. And I wish there was a way that we could keep him around. And this is a lovely way of, you know, the film industry, um, making sure that there's a legacy left, you know, from his music, and the effect that he's had over the years over other composers. You know, a lot of people have used his used his work as inspiration, and I think there's going to be a lot of people over the years that will say, you know, I wanted to become a composer because I used to listen to the scores done by John Williams. And now they're going to be working in an area dedicated to his name. And I think that's great.
It certainly is, and obviously, Williams is sort of, you know, I think the teased the potential retirement, I think, over the past couple of times over the last couple of years. But he has doubled down on he's not ruling anything out, and if it's possible, he'd make another score. So I think, you know, if the right project comes along, maybe it's the Rey movie. He did develop Rey's theme, you know, he worked on all the music for Rey's Star Wars movies, so maybe he comes in and he does the full score for that next Star Wars movie, which follows in the footsteps of Rey after the events of the Rise of Skywalker. Would be pretty awesome. Yeah, I think, you know, it's really good that they've honoured him this way. You know, I think I'm glad he's alive to actually see it happen as well. You know, I think there's a lot of people at his age might not be, but considering what he's give to cinema, it's fantastic that he was there to see this in person. Out of curiosity, Jason, what's some of your favourite John Williams tracks or scores?
Obviously, the Indiana Jones is classic, because it's a proper adventure score. Jurassic Park, you know, that is one of my all-time favourite films, and the score for that, perfect. What else am I? Obviously, E.T. There's some brilliant music that really, you know, helps towards the emotion of that. Um, and I'm trying to think what else there is. You know, there's so many. When you look at the amount that he's worked on, obviously all of the Star Wars that he's worked on, you know, and even the stuff that he hasn't worked on, obviously because they're having to, it's still inspired by what went before him or went before them. So with what he did, so like I loved some of the stuff that was done in The Mandalorian, obviously with very much his style, but with very different instruments and everything to give a different feel to it. So yeah, he's just had a huge effect over the years, and I think even when you listen to some of the scores done by others like Hans Zimmer and stuff like that, you can listen to it and you think it's got a bit of John Williams in it, um, and um, that is his legacy.
It certainly is. So the newly named John Williams Music Building obviously honours the Academy, Emmy, and Grammy Award-winning composer. Um, obviously for his contributions to the world of film and music. Over 53 Academy Award nominations. It's crazy when you think about 53 times he's been nominated at the Academy. It's crazy. He is the most nominated individual in Academy history. And for me, it's not just like, obviously he lends so much DNA to Star Wars with the soundtrack, and Star Wars is a world we don't really know. Especially when we first see it, but that score sort of keeps us grounded in it, in the mystical and in the human nature of it. But he's done everything from Star Wars to movies like Jaws, a horror movie, to family movies like E.T. the Extraterrestrial, Saving Private Ryan, a war movie. Do you know what I mean? He's done almost every genre as well. It's sort of very similar to Spielberg. That's in that respect, where it's sort of the master of all genres, the master of all types of story. Which I wonder, he did the Home Alone, things like that. Just a fantastic man who's achieved legendary status, and it's really, really good to see that he is being honoured this way. Moving on from that, someone else who's been honoured, Dave Filoni, is to be honoured at the Saturn Awards with the George Pal Memorial Award. Obviously, Dave recently been promoted to Lucasfilm's Chief Creative Officer and is currently developing Ahsoka Season 2, as well as getting ready to work on new movie The Mandalorian and Grogu alongside Jon Favreau. But yes, he's going to be honoured at next month's 51st Saturn Awards with the George Pal Memorial Award. What's sort of been said is that Dave's work has had a profound impact on the Star Wars franchise, breathing new life into beloved characters and expanding the universe in exciting and unexpected ways. Academy President Robert Holgren and Saturn Award producers Bradley and Kevin Marcus say of Lucasfilm's Chief Creative Officer, he is a true visionary in the world of animation and storytelling, and we are truly honoured to bestow this very special award on him. Obviously, we all know Filoni's journey began to work at Lucasfilm in 2005 when he was selected by George Lucas himself to help build Lucasfilm's animation studio and create the company's first series, Star Wars The Clone Wars. Obviously, we all know since then Filoni's gone on to work as a creator, writer and executive producer on the critically acclaimed series Ahsoka, an executive producer, episodic director and writer on the Emmy Award-winning series The Mandalorian, as well as producing other series including Star Wars A Bad Batch and Tales of the Jedi. That's not even mention anything to do with Star Wars Rebels, which is absolutely fantastic. So the award, obviously named after legendary filmmaker and animator George Pal, who did the original War of the Worlds, A Time Machine. The George Pal Memorial Award is presented on rare occasion to a filmmaker who embodies a sense of wonder, imagination, and a mastery of the fantastic in cinematic storytelling. Obviously, previous recipients do include Lucasfilm President Kathleen Kennedy. So yeah, obviously February 4th is when this event will go down. And obviously, again, I think very, very much deserved. I think when you think about Dave Filoni, he's just, this new role as Chief Creative Officer, with Ahsoka Season 2 and with more movies to come, he's going to be working heavily on The Mandalorian and Grogu, although Jon Favreau's directing. He's got his own movie coming out, which could be Heir to the Empire themed. He's got a lot of Star Wars ahead of him, but he's also done so much already. So it's crazy to think about how much he's actually done, which is a lot of awesome storytelling. But actually, he's probably only halfway through his journey here. There's still like a lot more storytelling to come. So I don't know what your thoughts are on Dave getting this award, and also just, again, I don't mind your thoughts on what I've said there about how we've had a lot of brilliant Star Wars from Dave, but also I feel there's a lot more to come as well.
Yeah, no, well, from my past comments that Dave is a hero of mine. And like when you put it into hours of story time created, he's far surpassed George Lucas in the amount of Star Wars that he's sort of been there for. Obviously, he's been guided by George, which is very apparent, and the respect that he shows to George and the relationship they've had, I think, has been a big part of keeping Star Wars going. He is someone that not only is he great for Star Wars as a creator, when you sit and listen to Dave Filoni talk about Star Wars, this is someone that not only enjoys creating it, he enjoys Star Wars and he enjoys the fans and the whole experience. And I just, yeah, I'm really pleased that he's been honoured with something like this. And like you say, there there's so much more hopefully to come from him over the years, and the fact that Lucasfilm have obviously given him more and more responsibility, I think is brilliant for us as fans, because he treats it with a respect that I think other writers and other more commercially, you know, pushed producers wouldn't necessarily have. So I'm looking forward to what the future might bring with him.
Yeah, I think everything you said there is spot on. I think he's delivered so much already, but the next 20, 30 years of Star Wars are probably going to be heavily influenced by this guy, whether it's through him writing and directing himself, whether it's through this creative executive officer role now, where he'll be sort of overseeing things. But what we would see is that the future is in safe hands, and George Lucas's apprentice has indeed become the master. We'll do the hat trick of achievements and people being honoured. Obviously, Harrison Ford has received sort of the Career Achievement Award at the Critics' Choice Awards. So that's already happened. I've watched the acceptance speech. You can find it on YouTube. I recommend you watch it. He gets quite emotional. Doesn't go into too much detail about some things, but he thanks a lot of people. You can see that he generally means a lot to him. In Hollywood means a lot to him, and in the movies mean a lot to him, which is fantastic to see. But yes, he was introduced by Indiana Jones and Destiny director James Mangold, who was, of course, also directing a Dawn of the Jedi movie, hopefully in the future. But yeah, Harrison got very emotional accepting the Career Achievement Award. He paid sort of tribute to his wife. He paid tribute to Hollywood itself. He was very, very emotional. I think when you think about Harrison Ford, you probably don't realize. I mean, obviously, when I watch Dial of Destiny, you forget that Harrison Ford is 81 years old. He's been on the big screen for over 50 years. So definitely a well-achieved award. He certainly earned it, but he can certainly still go and has a lot to offer. If you look at how fantastic he was in The Force Awakens, I thought he was wonderful in that movie. Fantastic. I thought he was really good in the new Indiana Jones movie. I haven't seen the Western show that he's in, or the spin-off of the Western show that he's in, but I've heard it's fantastic. So yeah, I don't know what your thoughts are on Harrison Ford, and an 81-year-old who's still got a lot to give, and he's already given 50 years in the business, and him receiving this award. Jason?
Yeah, Harrison Ford is one of those actors that I think he's proper old school Hollywood. And when you look like at the latest Indiana Jones, when I first thought about it, I thought, how can they do it with this? This guy. Surely they're going to have stunt doubles, and you're going to know that it's a stunt double and all of that. And I know with all the clever trickery these days, but the fact that a lot of it you could tell it was Harrison putting his all into it. And I know he's well known for doing that, and also the films that he's been in over the years, he's done some brilliant stuff. One of my all-time favourite films that I keep meaning to rewatch again because I haven't done for a long time is The Fugitive. And he was absolutely brilliant in that film, and and he has over the years created characters that will live on forever, and everyone knows these characters. And obviously, the two most famous ones will always be Indiana Jones and Han Solo. And you know, who else? Who else in such a short time as he did at that time could create two iconic characters within the same period? And they're both a little bit action, but they're still also very different characters. And no, I think it, it's sad to think that obviously as we're moving forward, there's going to be less and less Harrison Ford content coming out. But the stuff that he's done, and even I'll be honest, some of the films that have really bombed that he's been involved in, but when you've watched them, you thought, well, the best thing about that was Harrison Ford, and if it hadn't been for him, it would have been an even worse film. So yeah, no, I think this is well deserved, and hats off to him for carrying on for as long as he has, and still putting in 110% in everything he does.
Definitely. And then if you look outside of Star Wars, as you said, you've already said The Fugitive, Witness, Apocalypse Now, American Graffiti, Working Girl, Blade Runner, the second Blade Runner, just to name a few things there. Do you know what I mean? That's without digging and finding a big list.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? The guy is awesome. And hopefully we get a few more movies with him before he hangs it up. But he's certainly got a lot to give. I don't know if you watched the Timeless Heroes documentary on Disney Plus. It ties in both Indiana Jones and Harrison Ford and their journey through Hollywood.
It's one of those. Disney Plus really need to plug more of their documentaries, because that was absolutely brilliant. I have to admit, with Star Wars, they've done some brilliant stuff, and watching that, it was a joy to really look, and it was tributes paid by other creatives that have worked with him, and you could see, they knew that if Harrison was involved, he was going to be putting in a hell of a lot of an effort, which meant they had to put in the effort too.
Yeah, that was even now on Dial of Destiny. I think, obviously, Christina Morse, who obviously did some of our Clone Wars review episodes back in the day, obviously now works at Skywalker Sound, and she worked on that project, so hats off to her. It is fantastic. Anybody who hasn't seen Timeless Heroes on Disney Plus, check it out. If you love Indiana Jones, if you love Harrison Ford, if you love the movies, you get a fantastic look at behind the scenes of Hollywood, of George and Steven Spielberg, of Harrison, and of, there's a lot of sort of archive footage of the making of the first Indiana Jones movies, which is really cool. Some footage and pictures I hadn't seen before, actually, from the archive, and then obviously, a lot of the new stuff as well, which was also awesome. And just seeing the energy and the physicality Harrison still brings, even at 81, he's on a show there, so definitely worth checking out. His Timeless Heroes on Disney Plus. Put you on the spot. Who's your favorite, Indiana Jones or Han Solo?
Indiana Jones.
Hey, and that's a perfect segue. That's a perfect segue into our next story. So, obviously, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny's now available on Disney Plus. It's been out in the cinema. The final Indiana Jones movie, they've said. But we are getting a new Indiana Jones story. It is called Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. It is a video game. It's been developed by Machine Games. So that is the award-winning studio behind the recent Wolfenstein series. And apparently it's only going to be available on Xbox Series X or S, PC, and Xbox Game Pass in 2024, so this year. But no PS5 listed there, I noticed, which is weird. Maybe that'll change, I suppose. So there's a trailer for the game, and there's also a gameplay trailer, as well as a couple of interviews with some of the creators of the game as well. But yeah, sort of the tagline is uncover one of history's greatest mysteries in Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, a first-person single-player adventure set between the events of Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Last Crusade. The year is 1937. Sinister forces are scouring the globe for the secret to an ancient power connected to the Great Circle, and only one person can stop them: Indiana Jones. You'll become the legendary archaeologist in this cinematic action-adventure game from Machine Games, the award-winning studio behind the recent Wolfenstein series and executive produced by Hall of Fame game designer Todd Howard. So I don't know if you've had time to sort of watch the trailer. It come out the blue. Sort of the announcement was the trailer, which I watched. The trailer was pretty cool. Really good Indiana Jones themes. I've not watched the gameplay trailer yet, although there is quite a lot of the gameplay in the normal trailer. Let's just go over to you. I know you're not the biggest video game player, but if this is how you're going to get the future of Indiana Jones stories, are you going to play the game?
I have to admit, I could be tempted. Obviously, I've got my PC, so I could quite easily get it on there. I, I do love. I love the Indiana, as I just said. Indiana Jones is my favorite Harrison Ford character. And it's like, for me, not only was it the films, I grew up with the Chronicles of Young Indiana Jones, and I can remember each week watching those episodes and loving them, and I've watched them over and over again. So anything that brings me a new Indiana Jones in a different media, and I can remember back in the early '90s when I was at school reading some of the tie-in novels that they did of the Indiana Jones stories. So yeah, I could definitely be tempted by this. I've seen some of the footage, like the trailer footage, just briefly, and it was like, yeah, this could grab me.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of first-person games, and they have been up front in the description and in the gameplay trailer. You see sort of the first-person nature, but it did look fun and intense. Is what I will say about the first-person stuff. So that's pretty cool. Obviously, I'm a PlayStation gamer myself, so I hope that does get announced for PlayStation. The Great Circle, I believe, is like certain landmarks around the world that form a circumference, I think, and it links to something. I'm sure you can Google that and find out a lot more information if you want to. But yeah, obviously great to see them developing more Indiana Jones stories, and obviously, what better way where you kind of de-age Harrison for an entire movie, so it would be far too expensive, I suppose. But you can certainly write a great story and produce it in a game, which is what they've done. Let's hope it is great. And there is an interview with game director Jerk Gustafsson, which is on lucasfilm.com actually, so you can check that out. So yeah, Indiana Jones lives, and it is coming to a video game console and a PC near you. Moving on back to Star Wars. Diego Luna obviously was talking last week now. Speaking of Variety at the Emmy Awards, shared that he just had 7 days left to shoot on the second and final season of Andor, and that he was sort of heading straight to London from the Emmy Awards to get it done, which is pretty cool. So I mean, that was January 16th ish, I think. So it's probably going to be all wrapped up by the coming days. So I don't know how excited that is for you. That Andor season 2 is finally going to be wrapped after the delays of the strikes of both the writers and the actors, and that hopefully visual effects don't take all year, and we might possibly get this at the very back end of the year, maybe November, December time. But just your thoughts on it wrapping up, and your thoughts on when we're going to get it, and then just your thoughts on how excited you are for season 2 of Andor.
Yeah, obviously it's good news to hear where they are in the whole process, because it's been sort of left us wondering what was going on. We knew we were going to get it. We knew the majority of it had been filmed. Obviously, he said, I've got 7 days worth of filming. And I think when he made the statement, he said, I'm literally going from here to get on a plane. So that was good news. Obviously, Andor as a series, I've thoroughly enjoyed, and I'm looking forward to seeing what's happening, and follow it. Finishing that story. I just, yeah, I'm hoping it's not going to take too long. Like you say, the visual effects, you know, how far along were they? How much more work have they got to do on that? Is this 7 days just like pick up footage, or what sort of footage is it they needed to do? Normally, if it's the end of him filming, then obviously they've got a lot of, they're very close to the end. Um, I'd I have a feeling it's going to be the early part of next year, but if they could squeeze it into this year, I think we'd all be eternally grateful. But we'll just have to wait and see. As long as they don't rush it and mess it up, which none of us want to see. So hopefully, I just look forward to seeing where Andor's going. I'm praying. I'm pretty sure we're going to get to see K2SO. Hopefully, we get to see how those two ended up together. That's part of the story I'm looking forward to seeing, and obviously, then how he got to where he was when we see him in Rogue One.
I think you've got a great point. But actually, obviously this is 7 days after shoot, but I suppose once they start the post production, they may have to come back for some reshoots, I suppose. So there might be a bit more shooting to do. Now you've said that, I never thought of it that way. Or maybe this is reshoots, I suppose. We're never going to find that out, but right now anyway. But so that is interesting. But yeah, post production process. I think it's good to know it's done. Obviously, it is the second and final season. And it'll tie us straight into Rogue One, is what they've said in the past, which is really cool. I think we're going to see Cassian involved a lot more with the rebellion, and a lot more sort of, if you remember the beginning of Rogue One when he shoots that guy in the back so he can escape the information. I think we're going to see a lot sort of that gritty nature maybe going on, which is going to be fantastic, intense viewing, which I'm excited about. So yeah, I said hopefully the post-production process will be thorough but also speedy, and like I said, hopefully we'll get that end of the year, or maybe it's finished end of the year and they'll just give it beginning of next year, just as a little New Year's present maybe. But I imagine we'll get further updates as that goes along. Moving on from Andor, got some news at Hasbro. How much we love talking about Hasbro. So one of the big things is Steve Evans, who's like huge on social media. Definitely follow Steve Evans on Instagram, is what I would say, if you like toys and action figures. He's on there at Mr. Stevie 18. He's known as Mr. Stevie. But yes, he's returning to the Star Wars brand at Hasbro, which is fantastic. So his new role will be Hasbro's design director for fan product for Marvel and Star Wars. She hasn't worked on Star Wars for a while. But that is fantastic news. I think some of the good stuff in the Black Series and the Vintage Collection came under him, and hopefully he'll. We've talked about our gripes about Hasbro, as well as some of the good stuff they've done, some of the not so good stuff they've done, and hopefully this is a way of keeping it fresh and hopefully giving us the things that they want. Also, speaking of Hasbro, on January 23rd, there will be a Star Wars fan stream on Hasbro Pulse. So that'll be very, very interesting to see sort of what's new, what new additions I'm expecting from the Black Series and the Vintage Collection. So yeah, it's Tuesday the 23rd. So it's 4:00 British Summer Time, I believe. So yeah, I'm excited to see that because the last one was pretty cool. They showed us some good stuff in the last one, including the HK-47 droid and the Revan for the Vintage Collection, which I've got somewhere, I haven't opened them yet. And also they also at that time showed us the Balin and the Shin Black Series, which are really cool. So yeah, looking forward to this new one coming out and what we're going to see. So first of all, what's your thoughts on them freshening things up in the Star Wars department with someone who's done it before and knows the crack? And what are you hoping for from the fan stream in a couple of days' time?
Oh, well, it's always good when someone new or someone old who's well respected returns. When, like you say, there's been criticism and issues So when you've got someone that's come back that everyone feels safe in their hands, that's got to be a good thing. As for what I'm hoping for the fan stream, well, that's a difficult one. What could they throw at us? You know, I'm a sucker for what's coming in. If they've got any new helmets or anything like that, that's always a good one for me. But I just like to see some decent, new new figures, not necessarily redos of old figures.
I think for me, I'm excited. I'm excited to see what figures they do announce, and obviously, there's no apart from Andor season 2 and stuff, there's nothing in direct production right now. There's some things that are finished though, so I doubt they're going to tease us any Acolyte characters or anything from Skeleton Crew. Well, they might. For me, I'm excited if they tease what the next HasLab could be. Obviously, we've got the Ghost back, which is fantastic. But obviously the previous two before the Ghost, which was the Reva lightsaber and the Rancor, obviously didn't get backed. So they're back to winning ways with that HasLab, but I think they need to keep that going. So it'll be very interesting to see what the next HasLab is. We might not, but we might find out. So I'm excited to see if they tease the HasLab, and I'm excited to see if they show us anything from Skeleton Crew or Acolyte. I think there could be a lot of money to be made in Jude Law action figures. I think a lot of women might buy them as well, especially if they've watched The Holiday over Christmas. Very, very photogenic guy. Speaking of Hasbro and just toys in general, I suppose, have you received or bought any Star Wars memorabilia lately, Jason?
No, it's been quiet. Obviously, few bits that I'd got Christmas time, but there's a few bits that I've got my eye on, but that'll be later on the year. Obviously, still recovering from Christmas and the expense of that, so I probably got to wait till my birthday in May now, and then I might get a treat. But I've just, it's funny you should say about Star Wars merchandise and that. Obviously, as you know, I kindly, via Jedi News, got some Roosevelt's shirts, and this week they've released some rather snazzy baseball caps and hoodies. One of them is like the same type of design of one of the shirts I've got, which is the Summer Snips. So obviously that's an Ahsoka, rather Hawaiian-looking design. It's quite cool, but there's also a rather cool hoodie. This is the Way, which is just covered in different Mandalorian helmets and designs, and yeah, there's Roosevelt's are bringing out some really cool sort of designs and stuff at the moment, and it's becoming easier to get it over here. So it's that's something I'm looking out for, and hopefully getting myself a few treats for the summer.
Certainly sounds like a good plan. Obviously, in the new year, I did go to Disneyland Paris, and I'm hoping me and my sister Katie will be recording an episode just based on Star Wars at Disneyland Paris and what we saw and experienced, including Star Tours, Star Wars Hyperspace Mountain, the merch. So I did get a Hyperspace Mountain t-shirt, which was really cool. I also got an Indiana Jones Temple de Peril t-shirt. So that's like 2 t-shirts based on the actual attractions there, which I really loved. I got an Indiana Jones sweatshirt as well, and I purchased a droid. So you can build your own droid there. Very similar to the Droid Factory droids that you get in the 3/4 inch line at Disney parks. I built my own astromech, which is pretty cool. So I'll probably be sharing images of that on social media and talking about that experience on that episode of the podcast when me and Katie recorded. But yeah, that's probably it really. Star Wars merchandise for myself anyway that I bought. I suppose that wraps up everything that I had listed to talk about on today's episode. Jason, is there anything else that you want to speak about?
No, I think that's pretty much obviously there's drips and drabs of different stuff coming out every week at the moment, which is quite fun. And more announcements. Hopefully, we'll start to find out more about what television shows and when we're going to get those in the next few weeks. But yeah, at the moment, being a Star Wars fan is pretty good.
It certainly is. I think one thing that did come out wasn't really a news story, but I think it was a lot of some sort of fake news about Daisy Ridley's Rey movie hitting issues in its early development, which has since been debunked, and everything's fine with it. And it seemed to come from those areas of fandom that just don't like women in Star Wars, I suppose. But yeah, that seems to have been debunked, and that project is moving along as it was, which is fantastic to hear. Jason, where can the people find you on social media?
At Hondo Ling, as per usual.
And you can find me on social media on Twitter, or as it's now known as X, and Instagram at Geordie Jedi Pete. You can find the podcast on Twitter, or X as it is now known, at Boars Star. You can also find the podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Star Wars Podcast. We're also on LinkedIn now at Star Wars Podcast, so check that out. And yeah, thank you very much for listening. If you're listening on Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, or on Spotify, just leave us a 5-star review, a top review. Makes me and Jason smile for a long time. Only costs you a couple of seconds. And if you're listening on any other type of podcast format or podcast device, again, just leave us a top review. Makes us very happy, and it also helps other people find the show. But that is all from us. May the Force be with you all. And remember, always tell that to Kanja Club.
Fearless Fred presents Mud 79, a fan-made Star Wars story, Season 2. The Empire stands on the verge of total defeat, its forces in tatters after a disastrous defeat at the hands of Separatist forces. The Imperial fortress of Camp Vibus has fallen. Spies have infiltrated High Command. Secessionist forces slaughter anyone friendly to the Empire. But the Mudders of Platoon 79 will not yield. They will not break, no matter the odds. For the Empire! But all is not lost. The arrival of a new commander brings hope for success. But with him comes a tighter grip, because failure is not an option.
The Emperor doesn't tolerate such gross incompetence, and neither do I.
The shattered remnants of Imperial might are rallied against a relentless enemy.
Know that the Emperor watches over us, that we are the instrument that brings his peace to the galaxy.
Experience the galaxy and join the Imperial forces as Solomon Kwai and the rest of the Mud Troopers march headlong towards a war they might not survive. Get down! Lead the way. Enlist today. Fearless Fred presents Mud 79, a fan-made Star Wars story. Season 2 is available for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
Hello, Star Wars listeners. This is Savannah Odit. You might know me as host of The Dorky Diva Show with my co-host Brian Balance. I am also producer of The Adventures of the Zolan Dart, which is a Star Wars-inspired audio drama that we produced over the last year. If you love stories about smugglers, courage, heroic characters, and maybe a few foes along the way, you should go to thedorkydivashow.com and listen to The Adventures of the Zolan Dart today.
Shout! We've got your pigs.
Were any of the critters harmed?
What did you do now?
I didn't do anything. I just freaked out for no reason.
It was nice doing business with you again. Maybe next time we could deliver something less temperamental.
Now, what you call temperamental, I call fun.
Hey, is there a place nearby where I can make some repairs?
Yeah, 3 clicks south of here, you'll find a small spaceport. They should have what you need, as long as it's nothing too big.
Dynamic class? My stars, you don't hear about many of those still being space-worthy.
It's been in my family for a while.
She's pretty great. Any chance you have a hover cart we can use to load up?
I'll check out the HoloNet to see if anything new has come up in the sector.
My name is Sereth Kol. I am the chief here on Kamai. My people and I have been experiencing food shortages as of late due to unforeseen natural occurrences. We are looking to hire someone.
I say we take this one. The pay is great, and it's the type of job we're familiar with.
Welcome. You must be Captain Otoa. I've already sent word to Pac 2 to expect you in the next cycle or so.
You told him we were coming before we even accepted the job. That's rather presumptuous, isn't it?
Perhaps, though once I received confirmation that you were interested and on your way here, I couldn't help but hope.
Fair enough. Well, we'll be back as soon as we can.
Well, that's not good.
Is that blaster fire I hear?
So you're the one.
Captain, it sounds like they want to do this the hard way.
I love when they got some fight in them.
This is bad. This is bad. We're about to have a lot of company.
I'll see you soon.